Hey guys, fishing and stuff. Today we're making some alternative lead sinkers, and I bet you can't even tell them apart. They pretty dang awesome, so stick around. Hey guys, today we're making some alternative lead sinkers. A lot of guys live in states where they can't use lead sinkers. And I've seen people in the comment section ask what other people are using in place of lead. Well, today we're doing an experiment using our existing lead molds, and we're gonna see if we can find something that's not toxic and it's close to lead in weight. This is actually a really cool DIY. And speaking of DIYs, if you haven't been on my channel page before, go over and check it out. I got a long list of DIYs, and you'll probably find something you like. And if you do, click subscribe and click the bell so that YouTube will notify you when I post videos and you can watch them. And subscribing is totally free. I'm just saying. Now let's get into this lead substitute experiment. So I'm working on a video where I'm going to show you different things you can use for sinkers besides lead, but this video is for the guys that already have sinker molds. Sinker molds can get very expensive. This mold here is not very big. It makes one sinker at a time. It's 2-piece, it's machined, and I think it costs like $25. It's pretty cool though. It's like a no-roll sinker that's got these little spikes on it, and it'll just grip better when you're fishing, or I guess you could use it for something like a method lead too. Now this here is an antique sinker mold. It's made out of cast aluminum, and you take a pin and you put it in one of these little channels. That way when you pour your lead in, you got a hole in it. And basically what you make out of it is egg sinkers. That might explain things a little bit better. But every one of these cavities is a different weight. You close it up and you pour your lead down through these holes, and the pin leaves a hole in the sinker when you're done. And this thing was made by C. Palmer, and it's really old. As a matter of fact, it still says $4.50 on it. That's pretty cool. A buddy of mine gave this to me. Now this sinker mold here I made on a video, and I just made it out of some aluminum. And what it makes is no-roll sinkers. And you can make them like this with the pin through it, which basically you can put your fishing line through. Or you can buy you some screw eyes like these, and you can screw one into the hole on one side. And that makes it more like a no-roll that you buy at the store. I also got a video on another sinker mold I made, and I used a drill bit to make it, and it's pretty cool. It makes a pyramid weight type sinker that you could use for ocean fishing, or heck, you could even use it for catfishing too if you wanted to. But go check those videos out if you're interested in making your own mold. But this video here is basically for those guys that have molds and they still want to use them. And these molds ain't cheap. Molds can run anywhere from $20 to $50. So the guys that live in the states where they're outlawing lead, they need a substitute that they can use with their molds. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna pour a sinker out of lead. I know this is a lead-free video, but I need something to compare the weight of the sinkers that we're gonna make to. So I'm gonna make a lead sinker, plus I need to melt this and clean my pot out. Make sure you got you a good mask to wear before you start melting your lead, because lead is toxic and it's not good to breathe it.
Always wear your respirator.
And do it in an open place, and a fan's not a bad thing to have either. So I'm gonna plug this in now, and when it gets melted, we're gonna start pouring our sinker. Also, you're gonna wanna take a torch and heat your mold up first. Learn from my mistakes. It just pours in there easier and smoother if you heat your mold before you pour your weight. Learn from my mistakes. So I took this mold that I made a couple videos back, which is a sinker mold, and I just poured the excess lead in it until I got my pot empty. Now I can clean my pot out and we can move on to the next metal that is lead free. The reason I poured my lead over into that mold and made these is because I don't have an ingot mold. Ingot mold basically takes a bunch of scrap lead like this and makes it where it's easier to store. But I use lead in anchors and different things, and I got a video where I use lead in an anchor that's pretty cool. By the way, this is what we came out with in our sinker mold. It's a pretty cool little sinker. It's like a no-roll that digs in. But actually, you could use this for a method lead. I got a video I made some carp bait on a while back. This here would work pretty good with that carp bait, I'm thinking. But anyway, now I'm gonna clean my pot out. Now I use solder a lot, and this is my favorite solder, 60-40, which basically means 60% tin and 40% lead. You see a lot of people using this for stained glass. I think it works good for soldering wires together. But if you find some of this at the scrapyard, it's gonna be over with the scrap lead because it's 40% lead. But a lot of times if you look around, you'll find solder in other places that people scrap. What it is lead-free solder. Lead-free solder can be made from tin, bismuth, copper. It can have all kinds of alloys mixed with it, but it don't have lead. So it's lead free. So I found this at the scrapyard. We're gonna melt it down and we're gonna make a weight out of it. I'm gonna use the same mold that I made my lead sinker with. And the reason we're doing it, we wanna see the difference in the weight. So I'm gonna strip all this off. I got my pot cleaned out. I'm gonna put it in here and start melting it down. Now listen, you're still gonna need to wear your mask when doing this. Tin is non-toxic too. But when you melt tin, it becomes toxic. So wear your mask.
Make sure the respirator is with you.
Boy, I'll say one thing, that lead-free solder sure makes pretty sinkers. And they're kind of heavy. They're not quite as heavy as the lead, but we're gonna find out that in just a little bit. Now, I got my pot cleaned out again. Next up on the chopping block, it could be the same thing because we're not 100% positive what goes into lead-free solder. It could be a lot of different things, according to Google. But next up, we got some tin nuggets. And this is tin alloy. Could be what's in this, I'm not sure. But this is pure tin. Well, it's 99.9% pure tin. But we're gonna melt this down. We're gonna make a weight out of this for our test as well. And I probably need to remind you, we're working with tin. And when tin's melted, it's toxic. So wear your mask.
Always wear your respirator.
Now this mold we're using, this machine, and it's really tight. Some guys take candle soot and put in their molds to make them release easier. I had trouble with the last one coming out. So I've got some powdered graphite here, and I'm gonna put it in it, rub it around, and it should help it come out easier, hopefully. Interesting enough, the pure tin one, which is this one, came right out of the mold. I'm not sure if it's because I put the graphite in it. It could have been because it was still warm when I took it out. But the lead one and the tin one came out with no problem. And they look a lot alike. That's the lead, that's the tin. But the lead-free solder that I used, I had a hard time getting it out of the mold. I got my pot cleaned out again. Now what we got up next is very, very interesting. This is bismuth. Bismuth is more of a mineral than a metal. And bismuth is completely non-toxic. So you're not gonna need your respirator.
Oh man, dang it.
And some of you might find this a little bit hard to believe, but bismuth is the main ingredient in Pepto-Bismol. So all of you consume bismuth at one time, so you know it's not toxic. Get it? Bismol, bismuth. You know what I'm talking about. Now, this next part might be a little bit confusing, but bismuth is heavier than lead. Bismuth is heavier, but it's not as heavy. The reason why is lead's a lot denser than bismuth. I guess it has like little air cavities or something in it. I don't understand it either. But bismuth is heavier than lead, but it's not as heavy as lead. I'm just saying. Anyway, we want to take this bismuth or bismol, whatever you want to call it, and we're going to put it in a melting pot, and then we're going to pour sinker out of it, so I have some of it for our little experiment. Oh, one more thing. Bismuth also has a lower melting point than lead. You know, it's just about worth using this bismuth just so you don't have to wear a respirator. Alright, so just for fun, I'm going to take what's left of the tin and I'm going to pour a weight and I'm going to make a no-roll sinker with this mold I made. And then I'm going to pour another one, but I'm going to fill it full of BBs before I pour it because steel weighs more than tin. This is an experiment, y'all. Now I'm gonna heat these BBs up really good because I don't want that stuff to start drying until it gets in all the little crevices. I'm thinking if I heat those steel BBs up, it'll let it get down in there better. Maybe. Okay, so the theory is plausible, but the method is flawed. I got a bunch of these little nuts here, and I strung them out across my pen, and it'll cover them up so you can't see them and the water don't penetrate them. Alright, so what we end up with is these 4 weights, which we're fixing to check the weight on. And we got these 2 no-roll sinkers, which are both pure tin, but one of them's got nuts in them, and one of them don't. And we got our experiment that failed. Might as well throw this in the trash. I bet you can't tell these 3 apart just by looking at them. I know I can't. So what I did on the back of them, this is the one we made from the lead-free solder. So I put an S on it. And this one here is kind of hard to tell. I put a T on it so I know it's the 99.9% pure tin. This one here is hard to tell, but I can tell it's heavy. This one's got a B, so it's the bismuth sinker, or the bismol sinker. So of course this last one's lead. Now we want to check the weights of these things to see if our little experiment is worth doing. Alright, so I got my scales out, I zeroed them out. First, we're going to take the tin sinker and put it on there. And it says it's 4.25 ounces. Now we're going to see if the one with the nuts in it is any heavier. And it's 4.7 ounces. It's not a lot of difference, but the steel is heavier than the pure tin. And just for reference, I've got a lead one here. Let's see what the lead weighs. It's 6 ounces. So it's about 1.5 ounces heavier. That's not really bad. I mean, these weights are heavier than they look. So that's actually not a bad alternative to lead. Now let's get down to the nitty-gritty of it. This is the soldered weight. I'm curious to see what it weighs because it's not pure tin. It weighs 3.05 ounces. This one's the pure tin. It weighs 2.95 ounces. That's exactly what I was thinking because the solder one is not pure tin, so it's just a little bit heavier. But there's not really enough difference to worry about it. Now this is the lead sinker. It weighs 4.55 ounces. Next we'll take our bismuth sinker. And it weighs 4.1 ounces. So basically in a nutshell, our 2 tin sinkers is about 1 ounce less than our bismuth sinker. And our lead sinker, which is the clear winner, is only about 1/2 ounce heavier than our bismuth sinker, which is pretty dang awesome if you ask me. So go out and get you some bismuth. Not that much difference in it and lead actually. Well, I think those sinkers turned out awesome, and they're a lot better for the environment. And you guys that live in states that can't use lead, you should try it out. But don't forget,
wear your respirator.
Hey guys, if you like this video, click that like button. And if you're not subscribed, then I don't know what you're waiting on. And as always, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you on the next build.
Oh man, dang it.